The time is precisely 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Ramesh Piris and read by Chandima Veerakorn. Headlines. An extraordinary gazette proscribes 11 extremist organizations to prevent terrorism. More buses and trains from tomorrow to facilitate returnees after the new year. COVID-19 confirmed tally on the rise. The police launched special monitoring operations during festive season. Australia gives Sri Lanka police 5 aerial drones to support crime fighting. A special program conducted island-wide by SLBC at COVID treatment centres to mark the new year. On international news, a shadow of sabotage hangs over critical talks between Iran and Israel. In sports, it's athletics. Dilshi Kumarasinghe sets new national record. Local stories in detail. The President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has issued an extraordinary gazette notification proscribing 11 extremist organizations in Sri Lanka, including the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The gazette notification says the government of Sri Lanka proscribed the 11 extremist organizations in good faith for the purpose of ensuring the continuance of peace within the country and in interest of national security, public order and the rule of law. The State Minister of Motor Traffic and Transport, Dilu Mamunugama, says public transport would be enhanced to facilitate those who will return from their hometowns after celebrating the New Year from tomorrow. He said 3,000 buses and 53 trains will be added to the existing fleet to facilitate the general public during the festive season until Friday. However, he said there would be a limited number of buses operated today. Accordingly, 1,192 Sri Lanka transport buses and 1,800 private buses by National Transport Commission and 53 trains will be added to provide a better service. The State Minister further said that all public transport operators are strictly advised to follow the COVID-19 health guidelines and should not exceed the number of passengers in every transport medium. Another 99 COVID-19 cases have been detected today in the country, raising the number of confirmed infections to 95,719. Accordingly, the Epidemiology Unit of the Ministry of Health said 2,966 persons are currently receiving treatment for coronavirus at several facilities across the country. Earlier today, 225 persons who recovered from COVID-19 were discharged from hospitals, raising the number of recoveries in the country to 92,151. 226 suspected COVID-19 cases are also under medical observation at present. The Australian Federal Police announced that the Joint Agency Task Force Operation Sovereign Borders, supporting the Sri Lankan police to establish an aerial drone surveillance capability, has gifted 5 drones to Sri Lankan police. The drones will be used in a wide range of activities, including natural disaster scene assessment and recovery, transnational crime investigation, and to counter maritime people smuggling. The commander of Joint Agency Task Force Operation Sovereign Borders, Rear Admiral Mark Hill, said Australia values highly the cooperation of international law enforcement partners in combating transnational crime. A special program organised by the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation to mark this year's Sinhala and Tamil New Year got underway this morning to distribute food items, medicine and gifts to persons who have been isolated due to contracting the deadly coronavirus at several facilities around the country. The program got underway this morning at treatment centres in Mulleriyawa, Bingiriya, Jaffna, Hambantota, Anuradhapura, Ampara and Kandy. Sponsors of this program included Cargill's Food City, Ceylon Biscuits, Ritzbury Chocolate, Mega Primer Intake, Senstronic, Candy Fresh Food and Peta Fresh Food. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Get a personal loan for your marriage, education or housing within 24 hours with People's Bank Digital Banking.
Today marks the 4th year remembrance of the Meethotamulla garbage dump landslide disaster. On the 14th of April 2017, the Meetaramulla garbage dump landslide led to the death of 32 people in the Dahampura village, Meetaramulla. Nearly 145 houses were destroyed by the landslide, displacing 625 people belonging to 180 families. The people of the Dahampura village, which was affected by the Meetaramulla garbage dump landslide, today paid floral tributes to their relatives who lost their lives in the tragedy. The chairman of the All-Ireland Canteen Owners Association, Asela Sampath, who was arrested yesterday, has been remanded till the 19th of April. The order was issued by the Housdorp Magistrates Court. Asela Sampath was arrested yesterday based on an open warrant issued by the Colombo Fort Magistrate. He was arrested by the Slave Island Police for allegedly threatening officials attached to the Consumer Affairs Authority in 2019. The Ministry of Transport has decided to expand the Park and Ride city bus service introduced to ease traffic congestion in Colombo. The State Ministry of Transport has planned to extend city bus service to the Piliyandala 120 bus route and the Gaul Road, Moratua-Colombo bus route, as well as several other major cities in the country in the next few weeks. Steps will also be taken to deploy modern passenger buses for this purpose. The Sri Lanka Transport Board said that there is a significant revenue generation from city buses currently on only 4 Colombo-bound bus routes. To end the local news, the headlines again. An extraordinary gazette proscribes 11 extremist organizations to prevent terrorism. More buses and trains from tomorrow to facilitate returnees after the new year. COVID-19 confirmed tally on the rise. The police launched special monitoring operation during festive season. Australia gives Sri Lanka police 5 aerial drones to support crime fighting. A special program conducted island-wide by the SLBC at COVID treatment centres to mark the new year. That ends local news.
Get a personal loan for your marriage, education or housing within 24 hours with People's Bank Digital Banking. People's Bank Digital Banking, your ultimate convenience.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On the main news story, the police said a special police inspection operation will be put in place on the roads during the Sinhala and Hindu New Year festive season and until the end of the seasonal period. The police spokesman DIG Ajit Rohana said if the drivers are found to have consumed alcohol or taken drugs, no bail will be allowed once they are arrested. He also requested the public to take precautionary steps to prevent the spread of COVID-19 during the New Year season. The DIG added that more than 1,000 police officers are being deployed to monitor the situation and to conduct surveillance operations. Mobile police patrol, foot patrols and a motorcycle patrol are assigned in their respective police divisions to monitor the situation. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. Several road accidents have been reported this morning between Dodangoda and Galanigama along the Southern Expressway. The acting director of the Operation Maintenance and Management Division of the Road Development Authority, Nihal Lodwick, said 10 vehicles were involved in several accidents along the stretch. The Road Development Authority requested motorists travelling along expressways to maintain the stipulated speed limit and distance between vehicles. That ends Watchlight.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of
the best discount in this Urdu season. People's Leasing Polybasi. Enjoy an interest rebate of 25% from People's Leasing for all the leasing facilities during this Urdu season. Call 011-206-300 for more details. Conditions apply.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
The headlines of the world news. The shadow of sabotage hangs over critical talks between Iran and Israel. Manila summons China's ambassador over Reef Row. New Zealand to launch world first climate change rules. A shadow war between Israel and Iran hangs ominously over the resumption of critical talks in Vienna today, aimed at returning Iran and the US to the 2015 nuclear agreement. The talks come just 3 days after a sabotage attack at a key Iranian nuclear plant near Natanz, where an explosion cut off electricity to the whole site. The attack damaged an unknown number of centrifuges and has stopped work at the facility for now. A day earlier, President Hassan Rouhani said officially opened an assembly plant at the site, designed to develop centrifuges which can work much faster. The Philippine Foreign Ministry has summoned the Chinese ambassador to the country to lodge a protest over Chinese fishing ships in the South China Sea. The ministry said in a statement that it summoned Huang Zilian the previous day and expressed utmost displeasure over the illegal lingering presence of Chinese vessels in Julian Philippe Reef. About 220 ships were found moored 300 kilometers west of Philippine island of Palawan in early March. Some of them are still there. New Zealand is to become the world's first country to bring in a law forcing its financial firms to report on the effect of climate change. The country wants to be carbon neutral by 2050 and says the financial sector needs to play its part. The Climate Change Minister, James Shaw, says banks, insurers and fund managers can do this by knowing the environmental effect of their investments. Legislation is expected to receive its first reading this week. To end the world news, the headlines again. A shadow of sabotage hangs over critical talks between Iran and Israel. Manila summons China's ambassador over Reef Row. New Zealand to launch world first climate change rules. That ends world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of
The best discount in this Urdu season, People's Leasing Polybasi. Enjoy an interest rebate of 25% from People's Leasing for all the leasing facilities during this Urdu season. Call 011-206-300 for more details. Conditions apply.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Moving on to development news. The National Archives is fortified with legitimate reserves of all the publications, including newspapers published in Sri Lanka from the 19th century, as well as invaluable archive documents created in the Dutch and British colonial reigns since 1640 AD. This collection is swelling day by day due to the enormous heap of documents added, including the digital publications and documentaries, broadcasting and telecasting, websites and electronic mails. Therefore, the Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to the proposal submitted by the Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa as the Minister of Buddha Sasana, Religious and Cultural Affairs for establishing a digital store adhering to international standards on digital conservation for ensuring the accountability and the authenticity of those digital documents. That ends development news. We move on to sports news. It's athletics and cricket. In athletics, Dilshi Kumarasinghe has set a new national record at the National Athletics Trials 2021. Triple gold medalist of South Asian Games blazed the track to clinch the victory of the women's 800-meter, crossing the tape in 2 hours, 2 minutes and 52 seconds. The event was held at the Sugatadasa Stadium in Colombo recently. Meanwhile, in cricket, the 6th night match in Indian Premier League will be played tonight in Chennai between Sunrisers Hyderabad and Royal Challengers Bangalore at 7:30 p.m. local time. That ends sports news.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
In its most recent collaborative effort, Genie, Sri Lanka's first PCI DSS certified payment app, has seamlessly integrated its services with My Doctor, Sri Lanka's pioneering digital health solution provider, to enable customers with a convenient digital payment facility to meet all their healthcare needs. Powered by Dialog Axiata PLC, Sri Lanka's premier connectivity provider, the Genie and My Doctor partnership will empower users with a mobile PCR test, which can be scheduled via the My Doctor mobile app, thereby eliminating the need for them to step into congested clinics. That ends business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
And on economic news, the Road Development Authority says the revenue earned through expressway ticket sales over 4 days amounts to 137.11 million rupees. The acting director of the Operation Maintenance and Management Division of the Road Development Authority, Nihal Lodwig, said the highest revenue was recorded on the 10th with 141,187 vehicles using expressways, resulting in revenue accumulation of 38.28 million rupees. He said 31.08 million rupees was earned on the 8th, 35.94 million rupees on the 9th and 31.81 million rupees on the 11th of April. Lodwig stated that 515,066 vehicles passed through expressways between the 8th of April and 11th of April. That ends economic news.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialog, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And finally, on the weather report, the Department of Meteorology predicts thunder showers accompanied by severe lightning at several places in the central, Sabaragamuwa, western, northwestern and northern provinces, and in the Gaul, Mathura and Anuradhapura districts. The Met Department said heavy showers can be expected at some places in these areas. The general public has also been requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by lightning activity. That ends the weather report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialog, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
And to end this bulletin of news, the headlines again. An extraordinary gazette proscribes 11 extremist organizations to prevent terrorism. More buses and trains from tomorrow to facilitate returnees after the new year. COVID-19 confirmed tally on the rise. The police launch special monitoring operation during festive season. Australia gifts Sri Lanka police 5 aerial drones to support crime fighting. A special program conducted island-wide by the SLBC at COVID treatment centres to mark the new year. In news overseas, the shadow of sabotage hangs over critical talks between Iran and Israel. In sports, Dilshikumar Singha sets new national record. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Over to my friend and colleague Dhiranjana Besundara to keep you entertained.